A very warm welcome. We're about to start. So, hello and welcome, everyone. If you're joining us live, please do let us know in the comments where you're watching from. It'd be really interesting to see. I think we've got a really international audience here. Well, we're back at work. The holidays are over. Inbox is full. Sometimes the inbox is overflowing and the pressure is already mounting. Perhaps you can feel it. I can feel all the weight of things that I have to do. When we announced this webinar, we touched on a hard truth. Most of us start the year chasing external targets. If we're doing business, we're chasing revenue, we're looking for a promotion, we're chasing fitness, perhaps. I was in the gym yesterday. It was packed, more busy than any other time of the year. But if you pursue new goals with an old internal mindset, you'll just hit the same walls as you hit last year. You may hit them, right? Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Yash Chitale. Welcome, Yash. Great to see you here. We're both right now in the trenches of bringing new books into the world later this year. I'm crowdfunding my book called The Zero Sum Illusion. Yash is in the same process at the moment with her book called A Poet in the Workplace. Despite our different angles, poetry in the workplace, zero sum illusion, I'm really focused on, I like to call it strategic understanding in the workplace. Yash looks at creative harmony. I think we've reached the same conclusion that leadership is an inside job, something that needs to start inside us. So, Yash, a very warm welcome to you. We're facing our own 2026 challenge, right? With trying to publish a book, doing our work at the same time. But it's quite a challenge with these book launches. How are you feeling about the campaign now that we're back into the swing of things?
Well, yeah, it has been a couple of overwhelming months. I mean, it's easy to write, hard to sell, especially if you are not a seller. And so it's been a social experiment. I think of it as a social experiment. I didn't expect anything going in. I'm pleasantly surprised so far. But at the same time, it's like an inside job, really. I mean, we probably both know that we had a chance to not do this and just go through this self-funded. And I would say it was an inside job to really step up and say, no, I'm going to put myself out there. These are ideas I care about. This is my passion. What if I don't want to share it with the world? Why would I write a book? True,
Mm,
we never sell before the product is done, but we need people to make it better, right? If we have I just like that idea, and so I would say it was an inside job. It took me a while, and I'm like, no, I'm going to go for it, and here we are.
yeah, taking yourself outside the comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah.
I often say to people, you need to move outside the comfort zone because that's where growth happens.
Hmm.
But I sometimes gloss over the fact that outside the comfort zone is terribly uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about growth mindset in the book, and really, it's like you go from fear to learning to growth, right? There is the comfort. First is fear, then comfort, fear, learning, and
Mm,
then the growth mindset. And I think we are there right now because every day it feels like, oh, this person didn't buy the book or something like that, and it's always this inside dialogue of they really cared about it, what happened, and people are busy and there's so much out there, so this, I mean, you have to keep that aside, right? That inside dialogue goes aside. It's about putting our ideas out there like we're doing right now, and if there are people who are interested in it, the idea gets out there, right? So yeah.
yes, great.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about some of the things that we can learn from the work we've been doing for the start of the year, and hopefully everyone listening, watching is going to find huge value from those discussions. Got a number of people joining. Patricia, hello, nice to see you, joining from East Coast, where Yash is as well. I'm based in London. If you're joining us live, please do let us know where you are in the comments. I think we've got some people on LinkedIn, some people on YouTube. Great pleasure to hear where you're from. So I wanted to start with talking about the pressure of New Year. There's a story in my book about holidays, and we're just coming out of holiday season. I think we can still talk about it a little bit. I was taking a holiday in the Mediterranean, and we arrived late. The baggage got delayed. We then, so we collected it really late. Then we went through to the arrivals hall. We were renting a car, and the queue was huge. We were there with two little children in the queue, hour after hour. We finally got to the front, and they said, sorry, the car you asked for is not available. We've got this small little one. We were thinking, where are we going to put all the baggage? How are we going to cope with all of this? And we started this whole long discussion and argument with the rental agent around this, sort of war of logic against this poor person. And we were feeling a real sense of injustice. And it wasn't until much later, actually, driving the car that we got, because it was the only one they had available, that I realized that the misery that I had wasn't coming from the small car. It was coming from fighting against reality, a long fight to achieve nothing but express something. In the book, I talk about this, and I call that the conflict frame. It's around zero-sum games, where, in fact, the feeling that if you win, I'll lose, and that it's a battle between in every case. So people returning to work this week, many will immediately find themselves in that conflict frame, fighting over budgets, perhaps, over timelines, what work to prioritize, fighting with reality. I love the premise of your book. I've read the sort of blurb about it. I've read that initial introduction, and you focus on harmony. What do you see as the first step that a leader can take to stop fighting the reality of 2026 and start finding their rhythm?
Yeah, what a great question. I mean, we all have this story, right? Somewhere down the memory lane, we have all been in that car line. We have all been upset about things not going right on our vacation, and we break our harmony. I mean, that's what it is. And so for me, I'm just thinking that we are in conflict. We are fighting for time and return on value, and we are in this push pull because we stay in an identity. That's our work identity. That's how we are in one place, in one domain of our life. And when we go into the vacation world, we're supposed to let go. It's a respite, right? It's a place where we are there to enjoy and also enjoy life's messiness, but we can't because we're perfect, or we're trying to be perfect at work. So I like to, in my book and even in my life, I say harmony is a practice. It's not something that's an inside job again. So it's like you take a comprehensive approach, right? You take everything in. If you are in harmony, then the yin, the yang, the light, the shadow, nature, nurture, all is part of it. So then the question is to me, I mean, and I'm a coach and I coach myself too. And the question is really, what is this? Is this worth the fight? Because when you are in harmony, I think your goals are different. You are looking for, like I would say, time richness, love richness, experience richness. And if there are smaller inflections that don't necessarily cause so much, if you like in hindsight, you looked in the hindsight and thought that, oh my God, why did we even fight? There was no other car. But at that moment, you can't, right? Because you're still in that mode. So my suggestion to people is time cannot be banked. So if you have to pick the right battles, there are some places where you cannot give up. It's about integrity, value. In business, you have to take the decisions you have to take, but you have to switch the identities, especially. And first of all, for that, you have to know all of those identities that are there and then learn to kind of put them in a rhythm, switch in, switch out. And I kind of call it inner clarity in my book. And it's more like, you have to, these are many parts of you. Like, I'm a poet and a coach and an author and a mother and an architect. And all through the day, the poet needs quiet. The
Mm.
mom's like rushing. I just finished the rush hour, right? And so I am now aware of these identities. And so practicing harmony is like switching in and out. And it's really being, when you are external, still being internally focused. And I think it takes time. It took me a long time, and it still doesn't work every day. It's not perfect. But I think if the goal is harmony, then and like you and I are trying to tell people that it's an inside job, then even in the external world, our inner clarity should show up, which doesn't, but we have to practice for that to show up.
Yeah, I guess part of that practice, I'm hearing you saying two things. One is the identity, having clear that I've got different identities, and I bring those different identities to my work at different times, different places, at home, in society, and such like. And the other aspect is around values, and saying I'm looking for harmony, seeing harmony as one of the values that I'm looking for, allows you then to pick the right battles, to focus in on what really counts, and perhaps go with the flow a bit of this feeling that I get from the word harmony.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there is so much messiness around anywhere. I talk of domains in life. That's why I said at home I'm this, at work. Many of us are like that, right? We are in different places. We have to have a completely different identity. And it does not work all the time. I mean, it's not a switch on, switch off thing in a way, but it's a flow thing. So
Yeah.
in the messiness, flow into, and you may have these moments of, oh, I like you had, but then in hindsight. So in coaching world, they say that first you know about it in hindsight, and then you kind of start picking it up right there, but can't control yourself. And then slowly in the moment you're like, okay, I get it. And it doesn't happen always. I think I look at harmony as happiness in a way. It's like we
Yes.
can't always be happy, but in life's messiness, we can get into the flow for a little bit, feel good, and then move on.
I love that. Really great way of putting it. Just to mention to those that are joining us live, if you'd like to ask questions, make comments, please do feel free to do that. Great to see you, Rokia and Nicholas and Sekar. Thanks for joining us. Please do let us know your reaction to things, comments, and such like. We'd love to hear them. So yes, you're talking about that flow. I love that type of idea. The For me, when pressure hits, I can very easily get defensive. I mention in the book about a process that we go through in my company of looking at comments from team members. It's sort of an office pulse to see how people are engaged and such like. And I would go through with our HR manager those comments approximately every week, and we would have long discussions about it. It was so difficult for me not to take each thing personally, and to some extent I used to dread those days when we did it, and went through the comments. you know in my book I talk about different types of voices we have. I talk about the inner hero, the person that wants to jump in and solve everything. That's a big thing for me. I talk about the mind reader, the voice that says what I think someone else is thinking and then changes my whole behavior because of that. And I talk about the inner lawyer. The inner lawyer is very strong in me. It's like a Jedi thing in me, I suppose. this lawyer would jump up and wake up and demand to fight back. How can they possibly say that? And for years, I made the mistake of trying to silence that voice, of trying to suppress the anger and sort of win what I now call an unwinnable war. Um, that type of me pivot isn't about silencing what that voice says. It's about learning to notice that. And I think if I'm not taking your idea too far, then the idea of flow is around accepting where I am and, and letting it be without acting on it and choosing the response that I want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, for you talk about the creative, intuitive self in your book, which is just a fantastic idea and type of identity. When the pressure is on and those inner critics get really loud, how does your framework help a leader to notice and accept those parts rather than getting into that exhausting wrestling match?
Yeah. We all have it, don't we? I mean, you call yours inner lawyer, I call mine the hustler. And you just said it right now that I have the hero in me who wants to step in and get things done, and that's your. So in my book, I say that we have many sides, right? Just like our identities, there are these what I call outside of identities narratives we play. Like I am a different mom than someone else, right? My kids call me momager. And the reason they call me momager is because I am the hustler. So, like you say, inner lawyer, I call my inner person the hustler. I just want to get out there and I want to hustle. And I somehow I came up with this because I think most of us who are right now in the workforce, we were born into the hustle culture. We saw our
Mm.
parents do it, and we kind of decided, yeah, I mean, this is the way to go. And so we all hustle for being better, doing good, being validated. Like in your story, you started this process, right? You started this process of getting comments from people, but in the end you only wanted to hear the comments that meant validation. And I think the inner lawyer wants validation, the hustler wants appreciation. So in my book, I say you pivot that idea, and you talk about pivot too. You pivot it to the seeker, you pivot it to something that's opposite of that, not because you don't accept the hustler. I love my hustle mentality, but I also know that it gets me in trouble. So when I'm the seeker, I don't get triggered by some of these things, right? I'm open to accepting those comments. It's just a comment. When I'm a seeker, I'm seeker of knowledge. So I think that this is also this inner work of there are different perspectives. When you just like, for me, the creative intuitive self is that way. It can take a comment, it can say that, oh, you can choose to think about this, you can make a change, you can disregard the comment. And then what that does is it just quietens the negative and doesn't land personally on me. It lands in the middle, it lands somewhere where I can look at it objectively. And just like we all have like the inner lawyer or the inner critic or the hustler or whatever you call your inner voice, we have the other thing too. We do have our creative intuitive self, we do have someone, we see it, right? We are here to seek wisdom, we are here to seek value. And I like to think of the idea of creative intuitive self as someone way over all the roles we play and all the things we are here for. I think when I'm in that mode, in my case, it's a poet, it's my harmonious inner voice. It allows everyone to talk, it looks at everything from all angles. And it does not mean that I agree with everything, then it'll be a chaos, but it helps me create a container. The poet allows me to observe anything, even anything thrown at me without judgment, like without assumption, without competing with someone or comparing myself to someone. And I like to say that as much as we have the inner critic or the inner lawyer, we have the seeker or the intuitive self. And what we have done is we have allowed that inner lawyer and hustler to just keep us in this survival mode, to keep us in this conflict, to say that, you always have to choose, you have to be this way, you can't have an inner critic. We can't get rid of our inner critic, right? But
Mm,
when we are in this harmonious whole, and in this, really, it's an imaginary. I think the creative intuitive self is what you create as your imaginary ideal. And when you do that, it's just a narrative. You can't be that. I can't be a poet all the time.
mm,
But it allows me to thrive. It allows me to thrive in conflict. It makes me not get overwhelmed right away. So I'm not
yes.
reactive. So I would say
Mm,
that's one way it allows me to change the rhythm. If I'm in a pattern, if I just can like even get a little bit of a sense of like, oh, I am the poet, and then it's a reminder that okay, it, in the moment it allows me
mm.
to be a seeker of information or whatever it is that comes my way.
I love how you're choosing an identity and living by it. It's part of that idea of the as if principle, isn't it? You could say, well, okay, I'm getting engaged and maybe taken into place I don't want to be, but I'm going to choose that seeker, the intuitive self role, which you call your inner poet, to,
Mhm.
to, to be here and thrive within this situation.
Yeah. I think
So,
when we push pull, it's the survival, right?
mhm,
Yeah, we are always like, should we? I mean, I was like that as I start my book like this, the hustler and the seeker, and they're talking to each other. And now I make the hustler work for the seeker.
mm,
We are hustling right now. We're hustling for our book, we're hustling for
yeah,
many things in life. But in a seeker mode, the outcome doesn't make that much of a difference. It's the process. Seeker
yeah,
is
I love
seeking
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned hustling, and we've got up here a QR code for Yash's website. If you scan that, you can have a look at her website, which got already you're building fantastic resources there. You have plans for training and such like. I'm not sure I'm allowed to even say that, but also a link to the crowdfunding campaign you have at the moment. Patricia has put a really interesting comment and a compound question into the comments here. I thought it would be nice to touch on that. Maybe you can start off, Yash, in terms of external observations. What has inspired your book and those insights?
I mean, like I said, my story started with this battle between the hustler and the seeker. And I have to say that all my life, the hustler had given me success. When I decided to get coaching, I was running a 100 people office in San Francisco for a really large design firm. Everything was going great, right? But I had these inner voices, and I think the coaching brought them even out to me. And so that was my inspiration to even start on this journey. And then over time, I did not want to become a coach, I have to say. I actually asked for a coach because I was leading, I had two babies at home, it was all overwhelming. I was like, okay, I need some support. And I you don't get inside the workplace because people just see the successful side of you. They don't see the vulnerable side of you. You don't show the vulnerable side. So my inspiration for this book is that you can be vulnerable, that there are voices. And just like you said, that your inner lawyer shows and you talk to HR and you try to figure this out. I think this book is to me is like that. The reason I wrote it is because we all go through this, and it's a journal. You get to write your thoughts in it. You get to find all those identities that you're kind of almost compartmentalizing, right? I'm one way at home. Nobody knew I was a poet. I have been writing since I was a teenager. So I think my inspiration is that people will realize that there is that creative, intuitive self. Sometimes it's from our childhood. Like the stories in our we are more curious, we are more open, right? So the large scale impact is that we will go back to understanding ourselves, who we are becoming, rather than just becoming what is expected of us, either in our workplace or even at home. Like, moms and dads, and you have this ideological. I would almost say that this is the ideal, and then we try to be that ideal. So my
Mm.
hope is that when people, like the large scale impact, I hope people can like give up a little bit of the hustle to be the best or the perfect, kind of don't think of busy, like, make, they redefine their success in a way. So I think those are my large scale impact that I would like to see people do. And we fail to do this internal work because we are rushing. We are rushing into the next project and the next thing. And so I would say I see that so often now as a coach, that people continue, we repeat, repeat, repeat. And we don't know why it keeps happening to us. I mean, many people come to me and they have layoff after layoff, and then they, add more skills, add this, add that. And but the inner conflict or the inner issues don't go away. And I think that's what I feel the impact of whatever you are writing or I'm writing, and maybe Patricia is writing too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think that's what we all are trying to do. It's a bigger problem. It's everywhere. We have just chosen to fight it for ourselves and then put things out there for people to think. Yeah, I'd say.
Love it. That's really inspiring, I think, in terms of for other people considering putting out, be it a book or anything else, taking that message out to others. For me, with this question, just put it back on again. Well, I was born and brought up in South Africa, and I go into some detail in the book around that, and had the great privilege, in fact, of being part of the change 1994 democratic elections for the first time. Before that, I'd been, in regular protest marches at the university, know how to deal with tear gas and such like, and saw how people, when they wish, can bring about a transformation. When they've made that decision to move forward in a way of peace, in a way of strategic understanding, I would say. It's sort of an empathy type of approach in the world. It is transformational, and it can produce such incredible results when we stop seeing the world as what can I get out of it, and what's in it for me, and if someone else is prospering, that means I must be suffering. And so it's really, those were the seeds of that experience, and I talk about many of those in the book that I'm writing. And then I brought that idea into business. How have I built, how can you build a for-profit company that is really driven around strategic understanding, driven and founded on how we can make a difference in the world? And so that's what I've spent, well, with my company the last 25 years doing and building. And our core values reflect what we're trying to do in terms of making a difference and understanding of other people's perspectives in the world. So I guess that's the external observations that I've had within business and politically. And of course, right now, we can feel this growing emotion of this zero-sum idea that we have to win. We need to, push forward for our own agendas in our countries or in our communities. And I find that really sad when there's so much more that can be achieved. So in the book, I talk about the difference that this perspective makes for me personally or for an individual, the difference it can make in a family, the difference it can make in a company and in a community, and hopefully in the wider world as we take this forward and this message forward. So I have huge ambitions there, and it's really the book encourages people to go out and spread the message, but it starts from that internal excuse me, the internal work, that internal perspective. Yeah, great question, Patricia. Thank you very much. And here I think is a good contact of yours, Yash, who is asking, are you targeting a particular audience?
If you are living life, you are my audience, because we are all in this. So right, because I'm not writing for a specific group. I mean, it looks like when I started writing a lot, a lot, it seems like, because I am a mom and a parent and an architect, and so I people thought, oh, this is for women. But really, the hustle culture, and my clients, most of my clients are actually men, because they are going through a lot and they do not speak up as much as women share their emotions. And so one of the things I write in the book is about that. So no, it is for any layman, it is for anyone living life and is in the busy season of their life. They can take this book. These are essays, so they can jump in and out of, and it's not a chronological book. These are essays on life and leadership, and how do you influence people, how do you get influence, how do you stay resilient, what do you do to keep being inspired. So thank you, Yogendra, for this question. It is for everyone in the busy season of their life. And I think busyness is not going away for a long time. Our retirement age keeps going farther and farther. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, and you'll tell us a little bit more about the format of your book and such. Like, this is fantastic workbook, right? That you're
Yes.
creating.
Yeah. So one of the things is, for me, anytime I read self-help books, and I've read a lot of them. If you see my shelf right here, it's full of them, because as a coach, anytime I assign a book to someone, I read it first. I read it, that's why I can assign it, right? And you'll see all of my books have little notes here and there, and sometimes it's about me, sometimes it's about my client, and we are getting away from that, right? So this is a poetic pause. What is a poetic pause if you don't sit down and write in a notebook? We never do that. So my book is also a journal before that people will actually take it. And I say it in the book, just go somewhere outside of this busyness and write down all your identities. Because if you're sitting here and then you're only going to see what's in the foreground, but there, if you want to find your creative, intuitive self, it's somewhere else, and you need to change the environment.
Mm,
You need to take the pause, not just from this moment where you are, but from this place where you are. So yeah, one of the reasons for making it a journal was that. And I'm a coach, I can tell you that I tell people to do many things, but I can't give them solutions. I don't know exactly what's happening in your life. I don't know which identities are fighting. I get a glimpse of it, and then I ask them to practice. But the inner work comes from you, right? It is
mm,
your journey, it's your practice. And this is, the book is just a tool then. So,
right.
yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And Yogendra, from my side, just briefly, it's really focused on professionals, perhaps leaders at all different levels, who are looking at how to change the world. And I guess it would be beneficial to everyone, at least. We talk about three different chapters, three different sections. One is about me, and it's the internal work that we need to do. The other is about them and our perceptions of the outside world and others. And the third is around us. So me, them, and us. And the idea of us is really that, we're going to use what we've learned about ourselves and about others in the outside world, in the bigger world. So I think probably everyone can benefit from it, but it is very targeted at a person in professional circumstances, in work context. We're getting some fantastic questions. Nicholas has put on one. I don't think it's going to fit in here. I'll read the rest of the question that is there. He's written, you talked about how we all perform many different roles in professional and personal lives, and it's clear we often adapt to each role almost mechanically. And his question is, how can individuals develop a greater awareness of the different roles that they inhabit, considering the time pressure we experience, rather than just automatically adapting to the demands of each one with the intention of achieving greater harmony. So how can we develop that greater awareness and ability to adapt?
Yeah, it's easier said than done, right? I can say it, but you have to do it. And I've been doing this for the last 10 years and I'm not perfect, right? So,
Mm,
what I like to say is that's why the idea of rhythm. So the harmony is you want to bring wholeness. You want to be able to do this in the moment. But you also have to be aware that each of these roles have a different rhythm. Like you said in your first story, I think the rhythm of being in a workplace and getting the return on value and being on time and being on budget, everything affects us in that other mode, right?
mhm,
Like we still don't want delays. We don't want. So I like to say that understand the rhythm of each place, and when you are in that, are you still in the old rhythm? So that is the way I think I check myself. It's like I used to be very different when I was a hustler. I remember when I was pregnant with my second child, my husband would take my phone as soon as I came in. His thing was that you don't leave this. So I'm sitting here, I'm staring in somewhere and thinking about work, and then a little ping on my phone, and it was just, I couldn't get out of that rhythm. I mean, I couldn't
mhm.
get out of that rhythm for the both years that I had my kids. I don't know how I had them. Next morning after giving birth, I was on the phone and someone told me, technically your thumbs are disabled too. This, this was my HR writing to me. Your thumbs are disabled too, because I had to take. So you see, this is where I think we do mechanically because we care more. My definition of success at that time, and come to this point in my book, you have to redefine yourself to make those switch. You have to know what's most important for you. Yeah, and
Mm,
it's very funny. All of my clients say you talked about the gym. All of my clients say that their first goal, like, we don't make goals for work, we do probably for our businesses, but our personal goals are always about health, losing weight, getting on a diet, getting some time for myself. Think about this. Just this week come back, and yesterday was packed for me. I did not go for my walk. So you see, our definition of success is not health and happiness and harmony right now. Our definition of success is doing more at work, being better at doing. They're not bad definitions of success, but that's the reason why we cannot. We have to just completely, like, our inside job is to remind ourselves, you are the CEO of your life. Is your
mm,
health important? Is this little break, little pause important? And I think for me it has taken a long time to get to that place, and I still can't. When I was writing the book, I sat and wrote for hours, and then I lost a little window to go out for a walk. So I didn't interrupt the rhythm, and I
mm.
think you have to interrupt the rhythm. That's one way to kind of at least get into this space of saying, am I in harmony? How can I switch? How can I be aware? The rhythm of the house is different than the rhythm of the workplace. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Fantastic answer. Just one more question that we got in here in terms about internal struggles being real and how our books help to overcome them. One of the things from my perspective, and I think partly responding to Nicholas's comment too, is really around practice, and practice starts with an awareness. So I talk in the book about the dance that we're doing. We're doing our own steps, and the other person, them. So me, what are the steps I'm doing, and then the other person, what are the steps they're doing. And this comes from the idea, when I was at university, I was obsessed with ballroom and Latin American dancing. So it was something I did all the time, and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced for that 1 or 2 minutes of performance. And I guess anyone who's tried to dance knows that, but actually any sport, that you might do, there's a process of practicing. Yet with our own lives, we somehow think we can just decide it and do it. And there
Mhm.
is a whole lot of work of awareness and work of, um, um, firstly noticing how I'm reacting, just being aware of that, and then thinking and understanding what I prefer, what are my values that drive an alternative. So that is an important realization along the process. And then practicing responses and not beating myself up when I got it wrong. I would never learn how to do that tango step if every time I make a mistake, I land heavily on myself and say what a fool I am. We often think of it like that in other parts of life, but when we dance, we spend time to learn. Right.
Yeah.
So I spend quite a lot of time in the book really talking through that idea of practicing and using certain approaches to bring that awareness into our mind.
So for me, how does this book help overcome that? First of all, like we we become numb to our inner struggles, right? They are our inner struggles. It doesn't in the external world sometimes they are not important. It's unpopular even to say that I am feeling emotionally this or that. I
Mhm.
actually encourage my clients to say it, like, So there are some practices. My book is three parts. The first part is clarity. First, understand who you are, right? Who are you becoming because of what you have been doing, right? I was just a hustler. I just had no reason to be in any other domains. Then it's the courage. How does this book? So for me, it's like we all understand our inner struggles are real. We don't find the courage to step out and say, this is my struggle. How do I? So in the second part of my book, it's find the courage to get influenced. Like
Mm,
right now, you are attending this, something will stick. Like I
mm,
say, why are you attending this? I say why zone. I'm like, I know why I wrote this book. I know why I'm spending all of this time on this book and these talks. But if you don't know your why, for why you should fight the struggles, this book you will get and you will put it on the shelf. Like all our New Year resolutions, right? We do them and then we forget about them because our why is not clear. So
okay.
in this book, it'll ask you to go deeper into why should you even be fighting these inner struggles. We all see people around us. I mean, have so many friends who are very successful externally, but when we meet, they're like, oh, I wish I had a 10-minute meaningful conversation. This was just
Mm,
this past weekend. My friend said, oh, I'm doing good, but I don't have this 10-minute meaningful conversation. And it was her birthday yesterday, and I texted her and I said, I am available for a 10-minute conversation any day. You just call me, right?
it's great.
So these are some of the things you will see in the book that as you start writing, you will find your own solutions. This is something, our inner struggles are not very different from each other. It's
Mm,
like our solutions are unique to us and our situation. So
okay.
each part of the book, and then finally conviction. The last part of my book is conviction, and it's all about that. Really
Excellent.
about how to stay on this path and
Mm,
how to almost if you're hustling for everything else, your livelihood, hustle for yourself. Be the CEO of your life, I would say.
okay, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Perhaps that's where we should leave things. Really enjoyed that discussion. There were many other things that we could have talked about, different
Yes.
examples, but those that wrote comments have really helped us with some fantastic questions. We're going
Thank you.
to, on the next screen, as we close, I'm going to just leave up the 2 QR codes, just in case you want to have a look at what we've got there, perhaps support the crowdfunding campaign. It would be really fantastic if you did, but even if you haven't, really great to have your participation in this. Um, so, you know, I guess if there's one takeaway from today, it's that the challenges that we have in 2026 will not be solved by grinding harder, by the hustle, by pushing on those things with the same old mindset. It's really that inside inside job. It's something that we need to look inwards and bring forth those other identities, and do the hard work that it is to 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 see strategic understanding, to reach that space. So really fantastic. You want a last sentence or two, Yash, and then we'll bring it to a close.
I'm just thankful that people are here, they're listening, they're thinking, they're asking questions to me. That's a win for us, anyways, because
Yes.
we have brought attention to the inside. And if that can stick for a little long through January, if it can make someone journal, someone reflect, and hopefully when the book comes and some of the people who join our circles, I'm sure we're going to give them little tidbits all along before the book comes. So we'll help you practice. We're just thankful that you're thinking about the inside job.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yash. It's been lovely speaking to you. Hope you have a good day today. Good day to everyone who's watching this live or watching it in the recording. It's been great to be with you.
Yes, great to be with you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.